This is MRN Outloud on MRN.com, presented by Bloomin' Mondays at Outback Steakhouse. And also brought to you by Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength.
The Geico 500 is in the books from Talladega Superspeedway, and what a show it was. Hi again, everyone. Woody Kane alongside Joey Meyer, spotter for the Wood Brothers and Paul Menard. And we went into that race, Joey, with a little concern that we might see something like we saw at Daytona, where a bunch of guys go up and get in single file line and stay up against the wall. That didn't happen.
Before the race, Eddie DeHunt and I, who are very close friends, who got married last week, by the way.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I saw that.
We were actually taking bets on how quickly the cars would get lined up against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And he was under the impression that it would happen sooner than later. I was under the impression that it wasn't going to happen.
At all?
At all.
Okay.
And the interesting thing is we were both wrong because the bottom line was preferred.
Yeah.
And we hadn't seen that in the Cup car for a number of years.
Yeah.
But one of the interesting things that we said all weekend, every spotter on the roof said the same thing. This package or configuration resembled the trucks. The trucks.
A lot of drivers said that to us in practice.
The trucks run the bottom line.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the configuration where you're more aero limited, right? And you can drag the motor around on the bottom lane quicker than being up against the wall because you're aero limited up there.
Yep.
Where the Cup cars in the old configuration were more engine limited, and being up top allowed the engine to run freer.
Yeah.
So that was interesting to see how, even though we talked about it before practice and these cars looked like trucks in the draft, that's exactly how they performed. And the drivers were able to figure it out. The best drivers in the world, we talk about all the time, kept, for the most part, a very clean race, very competitive race.
Till the end part.
Yeah, but that's, you expect that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, anytime you get cars within inches of each other, we have a little movement around, you're going to wreck. And then the interesting part was if you weren't happy, go home. Go watch basketball.
Yeah.
Joey Logano said it best.
I'm convinced there are just some people who are going to gripe no matter what, we talked about before.
No matter what, because yesterday provided a multiple level of experience it was great.
Fantastic.
Yes. And again, before we turned 15 seconds ago, I told you I'm in a bad mood.
Why? What happened? Did you get up on the wrong side of the bed?
No,
get some burnt coffee?
No,
you're not a coffee guy anyway.
No. I'm actually doing a little monster this morning just because I forgot
rehab.
I'm an iced tea drinker. I don't do hot liquids, by the way. I'm not a big coffee drinker.
Okay.
But I just felt so unfulfilled from an expectation level yesterday that when we started the
overall or for your team individually,
my individual performance, because Paul Menard and I are still working and learning together.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me till this morning. I was talking to our producer, Daryl and Kenny, before the show. It took me till this morning to understand.
We're so out of control, it takes two people to produce us, by the way.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
It's crazy. It's nonsense. But we're still learning each other, right?
Yeah.
And it's still hard to find out what he wants versus what I'm telling him. And even though what I'm telling him can be what he wants, it's not how he wants to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have that with my wife sometimes.
Okay, so think about what I just said, and you're traveling at 190, 200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, he hasn't said anything about somebody being outside of me. Does that mean there's nobody there?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Versus a clear high.
There is nothing there.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. That's where Brad and I work differently than Paul and I work differently. And I was very unfulfilled. I was in great mood at the red flag, 4 laps to go, running
You guys
6th.
popped up there late and were a factor.
Yes, and we felt really good about our car. Once the restart went, you could tell that my communication and his driving style weren't meshing, and we were kind of being hesitant. And you can't be hesitant. This is me, Snap. You can't. This is how fast things are happening.
Yeah, and it's even faster this time. Now, let me ask you this, because a lot of drivers said it's going to be really critical in this race, because by the time a spotter sees something and tells us with the closing rate we have, it'll already have happened by the time the communication comes through.
Right. You're trying to predict the run or the momentum or the energy, right? And then the difference being is if you're out front, you could still, after we found out, you could still manage the front row a little bit, but you could not block. And that's the difference.
Yeah.
If you were able to manage, you could do good. But if you tried to block and the guy got to your bumper, the closing rate was so fast. That's when the wrecks happen.
It's over before you can tell.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And that's when we saw a little bit of the wrecks happening yesterday. But it was a good race, man. It was a really good race. There was a lot of activity. You have to get
I think I saw 39 passes for the lead.
You have to get your wallets out today.
Oh, yeah, you do.
You know,
we need to make mention. We are sponsored by Outback Steakhouse, but Kevin Harvick, in that very first incident of the day, leaves early, so that means no top 10 finish and no free bloomin' onion at Outback Steakhouse. But
they still sell
you can go over there anyway
and
say, I just want to come and eat, because they got some great lunch specials and a lot of cool things going on right now.
With the year he's having, he wasn't happy after the infield care center wreck. You know, he obviously laid that blame squarely on the shoulders of Darrell Wallace, right? But again, we saw it during the race multiple times, right? We've seen professional.
That was just the first incident.
Yeah, that was just the first incident. We've seen much more experienced drivers do that exact same incident. So to blame him, and that's just frustration on Kevin's part. Realistically, the big window was how his year's gone. He hasn't been to victory lane.
They haven't been. They've been fast, but they haven't been able to pay it off
because they haven't executed the race from start to finish. Right? There's always been a loose wheel or a penalty. Exactly. And so yesterday was just a culminary of this year's event. But go get your wallet out. Go get you a Bloomin' Monday. Keep supporting their show. And
little Joey looks kind of sad.
He does look sad.
We got Miles the Monster to keep him company, so that'll be a big part of it. As we go out, though, let's take a look at what Chase Elliott had to say, because it was so cool, and I'm sure you could hear the crowd where you were. We could hear it inside the truck. He wins at a track his father, NASCAR Hall of Famer Bill Elliott, won twice at, and still holds the track qualifying record at 212 miles an hour. Here's Chase Elliott.
Cool thing about today is how early in the year it is, you know, and those playoff points propelling some of those guys to the Final Four. Obviously, you need to win at other places, you know, aside from a speedway too, but a sticker's a sticker, and the playoff points are what they are, and I think it's important to rack them up as early as you can. As long as you can keep stacking on top of it, you know. So it's certainly a big deal. Excited about it. You know, Dad's history, obviously very cool. You know, to me, the biggest piece of today is just how much of a home race it felt like after the race. I mean, I was blown away by the people and how fired up everybody was. That was a unbelievable experience, and we are close to home, so that's cool. And they made me feel that way. So I couldn't ask for much more there.
Citywide to countryside, whatever you drive, wherever you go. Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there, no matter where the road takes you. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with Kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders, because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules. Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
The camper flying 18 flags is in. The guys on pit road are in. Second graders with mohawks, in. Bratwurst for your 25 closest friends. Bring it in. And because it's BYOB, your soft cooler is always in. The Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series race at Kansas Speedway. Saturday, May 11th, under the lights. Tickets at kansasspeedway.com. You in?
Back on MRN Out Loud, talking about the weekend that was at Talladega and looking forward to what we might see at Dover. Miles the Monster is here joining us, and we'll talk a little bit more about Dover later. But, Joey, there's still some stuff going on at Talladega on Monday. They're starting this week to get hot and heavy again with their transformation project.
One of the things we had not seen ever was Chase Elliott in victory lane at Talladega. One thing that we will never see again are those garages.
That's right. It's all torn down. We got some video to show you here for you folks watching online as we do the show about their project. This is what it's going to look like. This is between the two garage areas here where fans can walk right up and see the cars being prepped, and a big open air area in the middle of it, a pavilion out front where people can just hang out. That's going to be really cool from the video and the pictures that we've seen. It's going to be fantastic.
For all those people that think NASCAR is going away in a year or two, I'm going to show them this video and this project at Talladega. And
$50 million.
And claim they're wrong.
Yeah, I think you're correct.
Because that's going to be a beautiful facility. I can't wait to have the opportunity in October to be the first person in that victory lane, which would be pretty cool.
There you go. That's something to shoot for, right?
Absolutely.
So you see where the fans can get around the victory lane area more easily now, and it's similar to what they've got at Phoenix, for example, where the fans can get right up close when the car comes into victory lane.
Years ago, Las Vegas Motor Speedway rebuilt or when they built that first facility, they had the Diamond Garage, I think it's called Neon Garage.
Neon Garage, yeah.
And it allowed you to elevate. You walked above the garages and looked down, and you were probably 20, 30, 40 feet away, which was an amazing experience. That was the first of its kind. Now we've seen Richmond, we've seen Phoenix, now we've seen Talladega move it a step closer to where you're physically, this is the fence, this is the car, this is you.
You're right there.
You can reach over, and if you wanted to borrow a 9/16 wrench, you could.
I mean, at Daytona,
right
you can
there.
get up to those windows that look
Yep.
into the garage stalls, and a lot of times drivers will come up and sign for people who are there and stuff. But, I mean, this is a whole new level.
Yeah, in Daytona, you're separated by almost like going to a bank teller drive-through window, right?
Yeah, like the little drawer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're close, but you still almost feel like you're at the zoo, right?
Yeah.
You're knocking.
Yeah.
Don't knock on the glass.
Right.
It bothers the crew guys.
Right.
But now you're physically breathing the same air as the mechanics of your favorite race team and the drivers, and those guys hang out right there, and it's a good experience.
Yeah, and it's between the garages will line either side of that covered open air pavilion, open air to the sides, not the top. If it's sunny or bad weather, you can go in there and chill a little bit. It's going to be really cool. Demolition is going on now.
Right now. A few weeks ago, there was an incident during another sporting event, not race car related, where one of the players was complaining that the fans were too close.
Yeah.
That's
what fans want.
We're getting you closer, right?
Yeah.
That we're doing everything we can. You can literally, the only thing separating you is a little fence, and that's it. You can talk, you can breathe, you can get your autographs, you can get your picture. Guys are doing selfies, right?
Yeah.
You're right that
Well, there
close.
was that one nitwit who climbed on top of the fence in Richmond, but that's a different animal.
That was a heck of a seat.
Yeah, I don't know how he got up there the way he was.
Heck of a
But anyway, as we move forward, looking ahead now, Joey, what about the soapbox? You got anything that's stuck in your craw this weekend?
Yes, I do, because this weekend proves that people live to just bitch, okay? The last couple of weeks, Bristol, most famously 160,000 seats, clearly wasn't half full. And all we could see was everybody complaining about the lack of people at a NASCAR race and how we were going in the...
Like if I go to a movie and there's nobody else in the theater, I like it.
I don't
just
complain.
Gives me more room to spread out.
And I don't complain. Like it didn't affect the movie. I was there to watch the movie.
Right, not the other people.
Correct. But you always have that crowd that's complaining about the lack of people. You know, and if your wife was cooking you dinner and every time she cooked, all you could do is complain about the bad food, but you never complimented her on the good food, you wouldn't be married for very long.
And you'd start being hungry pretty
exactly
soon
right.
after that.
Figure, so now what we have is we have a fantastic crowd, both for the Xfinity race. There was Xfinity race at Talladega had a lot of people there.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the Cup race, which had a lot of people.
Yeah, it wasn't full, but there were a lot of people there.
There were a lot of people.
Great weather all weekend.
Great
helped
weather.
With the walk up and all that.
Haven't read one thing about how great the crowd was.
Yeah, you won't.
All these people that complain about lack of people can't show up at the same time and say, hey, guys, good job. I've been complaining for you guys for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and here we are. We have a good crowd at Talladega. Crickets.
Yeah.
Flipping crickets. And it irritates me to no end, because if you're going to take the time to complain about the very sport that you're watching, I'm going to turn the TV on and see how many people haven't showed up. That nobody does that. You're watching the race, whether there's 10 people in the stands or 110,000 people in the stands. You turned on the TV. Who cares?
Right. If you're there to enjoy it, why does it matter if others are enjoying it or not?
But if you're going to complain, at least take the opportunity to turn on the radio or the TV or your phone or whatever and go, hey, that's a pretty good crowd at Talladega. I'm watching the race, and I noticed. Good job, guys.
Yeah.
Give us the pat on the back that we deserve when the occasion deserves it.
Yeah.
If you're gonna take the opportunity to complain about every single thing in the sport, at least acknowledge the good things.
I think the racing at Talladega was among the most compelling we've seen in recent years. And I saw you tweet about it, and I feel the same way. It's a bucket list type track.
Absolutely.
When you go there, you cannot look away.
No.
You more than any other track, I think you're so afraid if you look away, you're going to miss something because there's always some kind of action going on. And this, even more than what we've seen recently. You had the wicker bill change between practice sessions, a gearing change, the teams thrashing around to get used to that. They're going 202 miles an hour, too fast. Let's put the wicker bill on and give them a different gear to keep the RPMs down so we don't destroy motors. What do? Go out and go 204.
That's it. I watched the Xfinity race on top of one of our team haulers. And again, I've been in the sport now a little over 23 years, actively involved from day one. The day I took my first flight, I was in the garage, right? So it's been that long. I watched from the roof of one of our haulers, and as the cars came by, I got chills and goosebumps. It's that environment at Talladega that, you only get it at Talladega and Daytona with that group of cars, that close, that speed level. And then you watch, how about Tyler Reddick? Wow, what an amazing
beat-up car.
Yeah, but that intensity of driving, you can't. It's unparalleled at any other track.
When he would go to try
list.
and absorb the momentum of one of the lanes, he didn't just kind of drift up there. It was like parallel parking. I mean, he was swerving over there and doing everything he could to stay out front.
You thought he was wrecking.
It seemed like
you thought he was out of control.
The first time he did that, I thought, oh, what happened?
Yeah, exactly. But you only get that. So that's why I just like you were saying, it's going to be a bucket list. And now with their renovations, it's going to be spectacular.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on as we go down the road. We mentioned the Xfinity race. Tyler Reddick gets his first win of the year. The defending champ. You don't often see him switch teams, but he did. He gets the first win for RCR, and now he's going to be locked into the playoffs again.
How about that event? RCR's first victory at Talladega in an Xfinity car.
Ever.
A Busch Series, Xfinity Series, Nationwide Series. They've
all those.
Never been. Think of how many.
I didn't realize that until somebody said the stat this weekend.
That's amazing. Me. Yeah, that's amazing. That as many drivers, the Kevin Harvicks. I mean, I could ramble on how many drivers.
Dale Earnhardt. My gosh.
That's right. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I forgot him.
Yeah.
So that opportunity for Tyler Reddick to switch teams from a championship contender over at Junior Motorsports, and they won the championship. I believe he's actually performing this year at a higher level. His performance, his speed, his aggression, his experience, everything is really notched up. Every one of those things I just mentioned, he's taken at least a step up from last year. So he'll be one of the ones, him and Christopher Bell, I look forward to. I hope they can race there at Homestead.
Yeah, he's saying himself that he's learned some things and is applying them now, and it's definitely paying off for him. All right, we go to Dover this weekend, a triple header. The trucks are back in action. We'll talk about all of that next.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre-cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with Kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules. Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
For more than 80 years, Detroit Diesel has been the legendary driving force powering many of the best-known trucks on the road. Through our state-of-the-art Detroit technologies in components and safety systems, we've earned our customers' trust as a reliable business partner dedicated to improving their bottom line. It's no wonder they continue to depend on Detroit to keep them safe and efficient on the road. When you demand it all, demand Detroit.
Check out MRN.com for a new podcast series called The Tough Trucks of NASCAR. 25 years and still trucking. We'll take you back to some great races.
Benson to the bottom of the racetrack. This is the race for the lead and the win at Michigan.
And some wild moments.
One truck is in the air. Matt Crafton upside down.
And we'll let you hear the stories behind them.
He was too bullheaded to let me pass him, and I was too bullheaded to let him have it.
Download the show for free on iTunes and at MRN.com.
MRN Out Loud, presented by Outback Steakhouse, headed to the Monster Mile. Miles the Monster is with us, and I asked a lot of drivers this weekend, but wanted to get your take on it. It looks like a giant Bristol with the concrete and the shape and the banking, but it doesn't drive that way. And a lot of guys say that's because of the way you fall off into the corners.
Yeah, when you go to Bristol, you go down the straightaway and you kind of climb into the corners because you're this way, and then the track elevates into the corners. You never really jump off into it. Dover is the complete opposite. You go down the straightaway, which is slightly banked. It's all concrete. And you start. Dale Jr. used to complain about the lines in the concrete. They would get rubber built up on them, and you'd click like a railroad track. A click, 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 and would get this momentum. And then you get one of the last momentums, and you jump off into a corner, and the corner catches you. And you'll actually see the rubber will be building up on the straightaways at the clicks of the concrete, and then it disappears, and then there's a big area of landing in the rubber that you see in the
And you hear
drivers
drivers say landing all the time.
And you land. You get light, and then you load up into a corner. Now, what we have this weekend at Dover is 1,000 pounds more downforce, and we're going to run wide open just about for a number of laps. We're really excited about this. This is going to be a larger version of Bristol. What happened at Bristol? We ran a 14:52. We ran
insane,
faster than we've ever run before. So now we go to Dover.
It's not the straightaway speed. It's that they can maintain the speed in the turns.
We're actually slower. We're close to 20 miles an hour slower at these larger tracks down the straightaway, right? So we're going similar speeds, but we never have to lift. And with all the downforce, the car goes around the corner like it's in a groove, like it's attached to the track or a slot car, if you will.
Yeah.
So now we go to Dover, and we have that ability to run that bottom lane until the tires give up a little bit. And that's what's cool about Dover, because once the grip goes away on the bottom, it is wide enough, and the way the corners are designed, you can move up, and guys will run from the very bottom just about all the way up against. Now, we talked about falling off into the corners. Well, if you don't run the bottom lane, you climb the corner getting in to run the high lane, right? Now you're 2 to 3 stories higher. If you went up to the high lane and looked down, you're looking down 2 to 3 stories, over 30 feet difference.
Yeah.
Well, that gives you the momentum down the hill as you're descending down the hill on the exit of the corners.
Coming out, yeah.
You gain all that momentum, and you'll see that all day long. Guys that are running the bottom, guys that are running the top are able to climb on those guys that are running the bottom lane and accelerate much faster. Now, why doesn't everybody go up there? Well, it's still shorter around that bottom groove.
It's math.
It's exactly right. So if your car handles better, wherever it runs, that's where you're going to go. So you're going to take the advantage of being faster on the bottom, a shorter way around, or take the longer way around because I can get on the gas longer. I'm going to go down the hill, and the track offers that. Now we have all this downforce, which is really going to open up the corners even more. So we have a lot of excitement levels, and they just announced they're going to do some garage upgrades a little bit here in the future.
I did
so
see that,
that's really cool.
And that is such a narrow, tight garage area, particularly on the Cup side. I know everybody is probably jumping for joy over that.
Yeah, that's one of the few tracks that we've laughed at for a number of years because it's been this way for as long as I've been going to Dover.
For folks who haven't been there, it's just so narrow compared to others.
The Xfinity garage is nicer than the Cup garage.
It's more wide open.
It's wide open.
Yeah,
exactly.
a lot more room.
We've always asked, which is what they did at Loudon, New Hampshire, a handful of years ago. They actually swapped garages. They put the Xfinity guys in the Cup and the Cup in the Xfinity, right? We've always asked why we didn't do that in the Cup side, because the garages are more open there, and normally there's more cars and more competitive teams that are in the Cup side. But they're going to do some renovations there. What is it, 50 or 60 years, I believe, we've been operating the Speedway?
I think
they're coming
at
up
least
on
40, yeah. It's somewhere in that neck of the woods.
So it's going to be a great opportunity. Again, the weather, should be good. And the triple header, Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
Trucks are back, yeah.
Trucks are back, yeah. I'm going to do Raphael, the same gentleman I did for KBM Motorsports over at Martinsville. We get to work together again on Friday. Saturday, I'll get to watch the event with the Xfinity guys, and then Sunday we'll start again and try to get this. We got a pretty good another series. The Dover, Kansas, Pocono, Michigan. It's a pretty good run going through Charlotte as well in May.
You have a couple of weeks off.
A couple of weeks off
because
Charlotte, you just stay at home. You don't
do anything.
Spot from the house.
Right, that's pretty cool.
It's exactly
get up
right.
there with your binoculars. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's right there.
Now let me ask you about this phenomenon at Dover. I've talked to a couple of drivers about this, but it's always fascinated me that, and I don't know if it's a concrete thing or a Dover specific thing. Under green, the guys are putting down rubber, the track's rubbering up like they want to see. Then under caution, they pick it back up again. So restarts can be treacherous because what you just felt is no longer there.
Absolutely. The concrete is so porous that the rubber fills in from your tires. And then under caution, or after you put new tires on, or even if you don't put new tires on, you end up picking all that rubber back up out of the track. we don't see that transfer and removal as at asphalt as much because of the way the asphalt is. I want to say it's finer, and the rubber gets into the asphalt and stays there.
Yeah.
Whereas the difference, if you had two tracks side by side built exactly the same, and you had cars run 30 laps, and you took a water hose and you hosed them off, you would actually run the rubber off the concrete track where you wouldn't run the rubber off the asphalt track. And there's definitely a difference there. And we see that in the cars. Again, if you
So how treacherous does that make restarts then?
Well, it's interesting because you have to be aware of it. You have to understand, are we
Remind your driver.
Exactly right. That's the thing. What you had before the yellow flag or before your pit stop is going to be different for the first couple of laps.
Yeah, tiptoe here for a little bit.
That's it. Well, or here's the deal. Some of your times your driver has more grip when there's no rubber, and he has to move up. Right, so that's the difference. You might be able to run that bottom line for the first 10 or 15 laps, and then when it rubbers up, you move up to the middle lane. So depending on how your car is handling, you'll either like the rubber being gone or you'll hate it. So it definitely gives you some options.
You mentioned earlier, we talked about the trucks coming back, a long layoff again for those guys, and sometimes that makes them get a little overeager.
That's it. They do. We talked about that for a number of years on the show, is that we used to have that long break from Daytona, and then we raced Martinsville 5 weeks later. Well, now this is one of their longest layoffs of the year so far, back into Dover. But they pick it back up, and hopefully the guys can settle in right away. They'll have a good practice on Thursday. This is one of those unusual 4-day. If you're a race fan, you go from Thursday to Sunday if you wanted to, because you get to be able to get on the track with the trucks on Thursday, and then they'll qualify and race on Friday. So it'll be interesting to see how they settle back in. No major rule changes, no major driver changes.
At least as of now.
Exactly. Well, for the truck series.
Right.
And then the only thing that we might see at Dover is the big rumor about how we're going to do Cup qualifying. Yeah.
There's a lot of that going around. All right.
And you were excited. Look at the excitement. That single car stuff is going to make you thrilled.
No, here's the thing. Single car qualifying is boring. It is. But that's the way it's been forever. Here's the thing, though. We don't need 2 rounds of single car qualifying. If you're going to do single car qualifying, 1 round is enough. Yeah, you're not building more drama. You're not adding anything more except more laps.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, that was so fun. Let's do it again. Yeah. No, you've just proved who was the fastest car.
Yeah, no, I'm just, again, I try to be objective when I say this. The more a spotter talks, the more entertaining it is for a race fan. Right? Because if I'm talking,
the cars are busier.
Right. We're doing something. Okay. So Talladega, we were all expected to go up against the wall in conga line. Well, I'm not talking. Very boring, right? That's a direct qualifying is that way. If I can talk during qualifying, it's more entertaining for the fans. I'm not going to talk during single car qualifying.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
That's the bottom line.
Don't forget, though, fans, we mentioned the trucks. That will be a late Friday afternoon race. The JEGS 200 airtime on Friday here on the Motor Racing Network is 4:30 Eastern time Friday afternoon, so make a note of that. Triple header weekend at Dover. We'll wrap it up with more on Dover coming up.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right. Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with Kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules.
Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
Winged Nation with Steve Post, Aaron Evernham, and Ashley Stremme. Your destination for all things winged sprint cars. Each Saturday at 8:30 and 11:30 a.m. on MAV TV. Live at noon on wingednation.com and Facebook Live. Join us for in-depth conversations with drivers and personalities that make up the greatest dirt racing on earth. The Winged Nation Preview Podcast each Thursday previews the upcoming weekend. Winged Nation, winged sprint car talk covering dirt tracks all across America.
Hi, this is Mike Backley. Join me and the rest of the MRN crew every Tuesday night for NASCAR Live. We'll get you up to date with the latest news stories and ready for the upcoming race weekend.
That's what it boils down to. You know, anything can happen in between, and we've seen it the last few years, kind of how crazy things can get.
Hear exclusive interviews, expert analysis, and much more.
Wheel that thing, brother, wheel it! That's why you never give up, guys. Never give up.
It's NASCAR Live this Tuesday night at 7 Eastern on the Motor Racing Network.
Final segment of MRN Out Loud presented by Outback Steakhouse as we get set to head toward Dover this weekend. Triple header, the trucks are back as well. Xfinity Series racing on Saturday, Cup on Sunday. Got a little scheduling detail for you before the end of the program. Wanted to back up one more thing talking about Talladega that we mentioned, Joey. The TV numbers were about flat and a really good crowd there and a lot of renovations and things going on now. With that change that we saw with the tapered spacer and the wicker bill on the back and the gearing, do you think we'll see that going forward at Daytona and Talladega again?
No, I don't know what NASCAR would want to do to change everything.
I thought that was great.
You know, I think the only concern, like if you took the entire weekend and you had to say, okay, we're going to nitpick and be very nitpick, I don't think NASCAR was really thrilled about Kyle Larson's car coming off the ground on its own.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, they have the data to be able to see what speed was it when it started lifting off the ground.
And the angle.
And the
all
angle.
that, yeah.
And if the roof flaps, because I only saw one roof flap up.
I think so. That's what I saw.
So I don't know if the second one
I've
was
only
broke.
seen two versions of the replay.
That's
though.
it.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only thing negative that NASCAR can take away from. How do we prevent that? I hope now I don't hope we go back to Daytona just like it was. That's beautiful. It's a great package. The only issue I have is the wicker that the teams added was right in the clear portion of our spoiler.
Yeah.
And
because it was changed once they got there, and the teams were thrashing in the garage.
Yeah, they actually
to manufacture those out of nothing.
Exactly.
On the fly.
They were actually given the angle themselves. They had to bend it to the spoiler, but it was right in the visibility line. So I think an adjustment there could be seen. But other than that, the engine package I think was fantastic.
One thing to watch for as well, Austin Dillon, his team had his rear deck lid confiscated on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
We expect some penalties sometime this week on that. We'll find out a little more as we go further. But Dover coming back, trucks on Friday, Xfinity on Saturday, and that series is heating up now. This will be the last Dash for Cash event. It's been kind of cool seeing those guys by themselves.
Yeah, no, you can't complain about the competition level when they're all on the same page. We understand the business side of things, why we have Cup guys. That's a different argument. I'm not beating that dead horse. I like it. It has to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But it is nice to see the Tyler Reddicks and the Christopher Bells and all the gentlemen, the Austin Cindricks, all those guys on the same package.
Yeah.
Yes, they are very, very competitive together.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming up this week on Motor Racing Network, our coverage from Dover kicks off on Friday morning, 11 o'clock Eastern Time, with first Cup practice from the Monster Mile. Then on Friday, later than that, 3:30 afternoon on Friday, Gander RV 400 pole qualifying on the Motor Racing Network. On Friday, later afternoon, 4:30 Eastern Time, the JEGS 200 Gander Outdoors Truck Series is back in action. Saturday at 1 Eastern Time, the Allied Steel Buildings 200 for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And on Sunday, the Gander RV 400 for the Cup Series. That comes your way at 1 o'clock Eastern Time on Sunday afternoon. Don't forget NASCAR Live Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time with Mike Bagley. We'll have the second part of our interview with Matt DiBenedetto, who had another good run and then another wreck at the end of the Super Speedway race. But you'll hear about how he got into a wrestling match with a can of biscuits. I know you can't wait for that. Yeah. It was really cool. It's a really fun story. Make sure you join us for all those. Check MRN.com for the latest news and more. I'm Woody. He's Joey. See you next week.